অজ্ঞাত বিচারে কিছু নাহি পাই তোমার করুণা সার জগত বিচারে কিছু নাহি পাই তোমার করুণা সার করুণা না হইলে কাঁদিয়া কাঁদিয়া 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 প্রাণ না রাখিব আর প্রাণ না রাখিব আর কৃপা বিন্দু দিয়া করে দাসে সেনাপেক্ষায় অতি হীনা গুরুদেব কৃপা বিন্দু দিয়া করে দাসে সেনাপেক্ষায় অতি হীনা গুরুদেব গুরুদেব Bhakti. Hey, Bhakti, karo na karo. And no Wi-Fi. Gosai, Jaya Vaishnav Gosai.
Prabhu would anyone like to take for morning time? Or
Page 86. Guranga Bolite Habe. Guranga Bolite Habe. Ulaka Sharira. Hari Hari Bolitena Yane Pavenira
Goranga Bolite Habe, Ulaka Sharira. Hari Hari Bolitena Yane
Anaka Venitae Jane Karuna Horibe Samsara Vasana Mora Kavetu Chahave Goranga Bolite Habe Ulaka Sharira Hari Hari Bolitena Yane Pavenira Goranga Bolite Habe Ulaka Sharira Vishaya Jadiya Kabe Shudahave Mana Kabe Hamahe Ramo Shri Vrindavana Goranga Bolite Habe Ulaka Sharira Hari Hari Bolitena Yane Pavenira Goranga Bolite Habe Ulaka Sharira Rupara Gundaka Pade Vaivera Puti Sabeha Mabuja Bose Sudana Piriti Rupara Gundaka Ruparam Gunata Pade Brahmara Asha Pradana Karoye Sada Naruttama Dasa
Minutes into
Page 110, Radha Bhajane Jari. Radha Bhajane Jari Mati Nahi Vela
45 minutes.
Thanks. Namashistam manamapi Suchiputram atra surupam Rupam tasyagrajamuripurim Maturim Kushtuvatim Radha Kundamadivaram Ahoradika Madhuvasam Ratu Yasya Patita Kripaya Sri Guru Tanatosmi Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadale Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namah Anandalilamaya Vigrahaya Hemabhadavetschavi Sundaraya Tasmai Mahaprema Rasapradaya Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Chaitanya Chandraya Namo Namaste Bhaktya Vihina Aparhana Lakshay Chintasya Kamaritaram Kamaye Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapaya Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Vrinde Namaste Charanarvindam Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Hey Krishna, Hey Radha, Hey Saketi Govinda Damodara Madhaveti Sham Sundar Shikanda Shikhar Smahas Murli Manohara Radhikar Sakamama Pripanete Sufir Charana Kim Kurim Kurum Tavai Vasmi Na Jivamityavana Iti Vikyaya Devi Tam Namam Charanam. First of all, I offer my Sastand Dandavat Puspanjali. My heart's like flowers thousands and thousands of times at the lotus feet of my holy master, my supremely worshipable spiritual Gurudev, Asmideya Paramarada Tama Guru Pada Padma, Nitilila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada, Ashtotara Satasri Rupanugacharya Varya, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. Secondly, I have my pranam thousands of times at the lotus feet of my Param Gurudev, to Srila Prabhupada, and to all of our Sri Rupanuga Gaudiya Guru Parampara. And finally, I have my pranam to Sri Srimati Shamarani Didi, Mahabodhi Prabhu, and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, Vanchakalpatarus, Akabas, and the Vedanta, Linda Pavana, Vaishnavi, Pilo Namo Nama. So for 2 days now, the third day, we have been hearing the wonderful glories of transcendental personality, associate of Supreme Lord Sri Satyanandan Gohari and Radha and Krishna. Our Gurudev, who very mercifully appeared into this world, sent by Radhika herself to bring us to her lotus feet. One very essential, important teaching that Srila Gurudev often would say is, don't criticize anyone. This is so important. Why? Because Taram Madhye Sarva Shestra Nama Sankirtan Niraparad Nam Laile Pai Premadhan. Of all the angas of bhakti, the best is Harinam Sankirtan. And if a person will simply utter the holy names of Sri Krishna, Niraparad, without any offense, then Pai Premadhan, they will attain Krishna Prem. Srila Ishwar Puripad told Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Krishna Nama Mahamantra Eito Swabhav Jai Jape Tari Krishna Upajay Bhav. When Mahaprabhu received initiation, he went and he began to chant. And as he was chanting, he had the darshan of Sri Krishna and he became mad. He was weeping, rolling on the ground. So he went back to his Gurudev and said, Kiva mantra dile gosai, kiva tarba, japite japite mantra koile paga. Oh Gurudev, what kind of mantra have you given me? What kind of power is in it that I began to chant japa? Now I think I've become mad. So in reply, his Gurudev said, oh, Krishna Nama Mahamantra Eito Swabhav. This is the nature of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Jai Jape Tare Krishna Upajai Bhav. If someone would do japa, repeating the holy names of Sri Krishna, then bhav, ecstatic love will manifest in their heart. So, this question comes, if we are chanting and realization is not coming, then what is the cause? Tabe jane aparade tahe te prachur Krishna nama bija tahe na kare ankur. Krishna nama bij, the holy name of Krishna is like a seed, and it becomes ankurit, it sprouts. That means from the name of Krishna, the beautiful form of Krishna manifests. And from the form of Krishna, then see Krishna's qualities, his associates. And one form among those associates, that will be your Swarup. So Nam reveals your Swarup also. Atasi Krishna Namadi na bhavad krayamindriyai sevan mukhi jivado swayameva spuratirda. Commenting on this verse, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he used this verse to explain Seva sadhaka rupena siddha rupena chatrahi. How should one serve in his sadhak form and in siddha form? So he said, first, in the sadhak form, chant the holy names of Krishna. Sevan mukhi jivado swayameva spuratirda. By chanting without offense, Krishna's name, form, qualities, associates, and your Swarup. And then you can follow those associates and then Leela like this. So this is how the Swarup comes. Sri Guru, when the devotee is chanting Harinam, by his mercy he reveals the Swarup in the heart of the disciple. After that, the disciple may reveal his heart to the Guru, and Guru can give some upasaka pariskriti. That means some refinement of that realization. Otherwise, the Swarup, the Siddhadeya, these Ekadas Bhavs, they cannot be given. They cannot be given to anyone. But rather, those who are chanting purely, they can realize it, and Sri Guru can give some refinement, some finishing touches to that. That is called Upasaka Pariskriti, the refinement of the experience or conception of the worshipper of Krishna. So, this is the power of the holy name. And Tabe Jane Aparade Tohete Prachur. If the seed of Nam Prabhu is not manifesting, it's not becoming ankurit in our heart, then the result is Aparad Tohete Prachur. Many offenses are there. And among the 10 offenses to the holy name, it's very interesting. You know, have you ever seen the race, hurdles race? When there's a race with the hurdles, they have to run and have to jump over a hurdle, and they have to run and have to jump over another hurdle, like that, like this. So in between you and Krishna praying, there are 10 hurdles. You just have to avoid these. What are these 10 hurdles? 10 offenses to the holy name. If a person will avoid the 10 offenses, then they'll arrive at their destination, Krishna praying, very easily. But the problem is, generally we see that in this Kali Yuga, where it's very contaminated atmosphere, and there's so much envy everywhere, saturating and permeating the atmosphere, that mainly we see that a lot of devotees, they fall flat on their face at the first hurdle. Why? Because the first offense to the holy name, Satam Ninda, Nam Nam Paramam Aparadam Vitanate Yatakyatim Yatam Katam Husate Tat Vigaram. To criticize the devotees who have dedicated their life to preaching the glories of the holy name. This is the problem. So Srila Gurudev said, don't criticize anyone. Kahari na ninda kari Krishna Krishna boli, Ajay Chaitanya say Jiniba Kahali. In Chaitanya Bhagavatam, it is said, chant the holy names continuously and don't criticize anyone. And if you do this, then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who is Ajit, he is unconquerable by anyone, he becomes conquered and he gives himself. Mahaprabhu gives himself to that person who chants the holy name and never criticizes anyone. So, Ninduka nahi kalabya sava shastra gai, sabara saman bhagavat dharma hai. The critical person, he never attains anything of value. Ninduka nahi kalabya, saravat shastra gai. All the scriptures say this. In fact, sabara saman bhagavat dharma hai. The Bhagavat Dharma is the Dharma of Sabara Saman, giving respect to everyone, respecting all. So, in this material world, it's very popular. Ninda rasa sadapi bet. May I always relish the rasa of criticism. But this is very, very unhealthy for our spiritual life. Now, Dosri Guru, he speaks. Don't criticize. Yes, Gurudev, yes, Guru, I've got it. But there's some justification. In this way, we don't accept the instruction of Sri Guru. Don't say any ifs or buts. Truth should be spoken. Always truth should be spoken. But what is truth? Sri Krishna said in the 11th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, truth is that which is pleasing to the ears of sadhus. And sadhus, they never want to hear the criticism of others. Perhaps you have heard of Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami. Vaishnavera nindikama nahi parikani, sarve Krishna bhajan kari e matra jani. It is said that Srila Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, if someone would come and begin to criticize, say some faults of a devotee, not something untrue, even true, saying something even true, Vaishnavera nindikarma, that means some activity which is not good of a devotee, then nahi padikani. Raghunath Bhatta Goswami never used to allow it to enter into his ears. But rather he would say, Sabhi Krishna bhajan kari e matta jani. Everyone is doing bhajan except for me. I am the only one who is not doing bhajan. So Prabhupada Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur he used to say, your critical mentality, it's alright, but if you turn it on yourself, don't become involved in the activities and the qualities of others. Try to criticize ourselves, and then we can make some progress. So Sri Krishna said to Uddhav, Parasubhava kamani na prasamskriti nindati sahasu prapyate swaratad asatya viniveshata. One should not speak of the good qualities or the bad qualities. One should not praise or blame anyone. Why? Because if you praise or blame any other person, now you lose. Sa asyu brashyate swartad. We immediately fall down from our own swarta. Swarta means our own purpose. Where are we going in life? What is our goal? Our goal is Krishna praying. How does doing dosha kirtan? speaking the faults of others helped us attain Krishna Prem. Only because the heart is dissatisfied, we point out the fault of others. It's really only a self-advertisement. Look at me, I don't have this fault. It is the criticism of others is a glorification of one's own ego only, and seeking comfort in the self-aggrandizement. So, sa-asu brashite swartad, those who criticize, praise and blame the good and bad qualities of others, they lose, they fall from the path of their own benefit. Why? Asakta biniveshata. Because whatever you speak, you become absorbed in that. Because in order for words to come out from your mouth, they have to go first. The vibration of pran goes from when you speak. The speech begins in the Mooladhara chakra. And it goes through the mental and intellectual phase and then comes out of the mouth. So to speak something, whatever you're thinking of, it has already taken control of your manobritti, your chitta brittis, internally. Whatever you speak, it absorbs your mind. So if a person is speaking the faults of others, that means their mind is absorbed in the faults. But these faults, asakta biniveshata, they are the qualities of Maya. The faults of others, they are the qualities of Tamagun, the qualities of Rajagun. So now our mind is absorbed in Rajagun and absorbed in Tamagun. So then we have lost our progress towards our goal of life. So, Srila Prabhupada, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur used to say, Agyahi Doshi. Doshi means the culprit. In this world we see so many problems. Yesterday we were hearing from Srimati Shamarani Didi, and she was saying how Bhaktivinoda Thakur has prayed, Atmani Vedana tu apode kori hoinu parapasuki dukkha dure gelo chintana rohilo chaudike ananda deke. Oh my Lord, oh Gurudev, since that moment I surrendered to you, all my worries have gone far away and I see joy in all directions. So, if a person is not surrendered, then they will always think there are many, many problems. The truth of the matter is that Sri Krishna is Supreme Lord. Suridam Sarvabhutanam. He's the best friend of everyone. He is the Parameshwara. He is the controller of everything. So nothing bad ever happened in the past, in the present, or the future. And so if our mind is absorbed in this, now we have gone in Maya. And those who are surrendered, they are not concerned with these things. They are joyful and absorbed in seva to their parampara. They're always looking up towards Gurudev, Param Gurudev, Paramasti Gurudev, Parapara Gurudev, Six Goswamis, Sachinandan Gohari. So, but if a person is not surrendered, then they see the world is full of problems everywhere. Also, Rasika yesterday, I was very inspired by all that. Tulsi yesterday, she was quoting the verse, Tattenu kampam susumekshamano. What does the verse mean? It means that person who sees mercy everywhere. He sees the Lord's mercy everywhere. Once there was one wealthy person and his son was very sick and he was about to die. And Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, he went to see him and he said, "You're a sadhu. Please bless me that my son will live." Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said, "I can help you. I will not change the destiny of this child, that the child should live, but I'll help you see it in the proper way." He said, No, you're a sadhu. You should stop my son from dying." Then Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur became very firm and he said, "I will not engage in a campaign to obstruct the will of the Supreme Lord Sri Krishna." You see the difference between the vision of the pure devotee and the vision of the materialist. The materialist sees problems everywhere and he's trying to fix them. And the pure devotee sees Krishna's mercy is everywhere. And he's appreciating it and he's very grateful for that. That is, Tattenu kampam susumikshamano. So Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said that I'm not going to engage in a campaign to impede the will of the Supreme Lord. If it's the will of the Supreme Lord that the soul should leave, he should leave. And that's mercy on all of us, to help us become detached. We are averse to Sri Krishna and we're very attached to this world. So Supreme Lord Sri Krishna is so merciful that he is, you know, when there's a festival, then everywhere is decorated with beautiful garlands. So Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said, the Supreme Lord is so kind and so merciful that he has decorated the whole universe with beautiful garlands of problems. To help us become detached and turn away from our material attachments and be dedicated to his lotus feet. So the mentality of the pure devotee and the conditioned soul is completely different. So the conditioned soul is always looking for a culprit. Who is to blame? To whom can I point the finger? So Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said, Agya hi doshi. Doshi, who is the culprit? The culprit is Agya. Avidya, ignorance. If someone is against you, if someone is speaking some apasiddhanta, even someone is making some problem, then one should not become angry with them, but rather one should say, Agya hi doshi. The culprit is the avidya, the ignorance. Hate the sin, but not the sinner. In this way, the devotee's heart is always peaceful. He's very kind and helpful to everyone, without becoming angry. Akrodha Paramananda Nityananda Rai. Sri Guru is a manifestation of Nityananda Prabhu. So it is said that Nityananda Rai is Akrodha Paramananda, full of bliss, and he never becomes angry with anyone. If a pure Vaishnava will show some anger, then you should know that this is also only kripa to purify us. So Agya hi doshi. It is how to behave when there's a problem, when there's a difficulty, when there's a scandal. Then I saw, when I was staying very close to my Gurudev, sometimes once there was a big scandal, a big problem, and everyone becomes running around excited and sensationalism here and there, and devotees began to criticize also different people. And Gurudev was very calm and peaceful. And then he said to me, you should see the situation in this way. Swapada mulam bhajata priyasya chaktanya bhavasya hari parisha vikarma yascho patitam katanchit dunoti sarvam ridisani vistaha. If there's a devotee and they are dedicated in the service to the Supreme Lord, but somehow or other, some vikarma, some fault comes in them, then for a devotee, they have no need to do any karma kanda, any prayasthita, Vedic atonement or anything. But rather you should think, dunoti sarvam ridisani vistaha. In the heart, Krishna is there, and see Krishna, because he's very kind to his devotees, he will clean everything away and make everything pure. So have faith in that. So I know, I can say from my own experience that in such a situation, I would not know how to behave or how to see the situation. But by being with Gurudev and directly, he's looking in my eyes and pointing at me and saying this verse and planting this verse in my heart, then the wisdom comes. Actually, in our conditioned state, we don't know what is good for us and what is bad for us, what is beneficial and detrimental. This is Sanatana Goswami's first statement to Mahaprabhu. Apanara hita hita kichu enajani. Gramya vyavahara pandit tai satyamani. Oh my Lord, I don't know what is beneficial for me and what is detrimental for me. But in the marketplace, the common people, they all call me a pandit, and I'm so foolish I believe them. So, giving up our own false ego, giving up our own idea of what is right and wrong and how to behave, how to think, how to respond to various situations, we have to be in anugatya. Anugatya, under the guidance of pure Vaishnavas, and learn from them how to walk this path of pure bhakti. And in this way, one can cross over the first hurdle to attain Krishna Prem, that is Satam Ninda. Never criticize any devotee. That offense will not be there. And then there's only 9 other offenses we have to give up, and then the heart will become flooded with Krishna Prem. That's it. Now, one more topic I wanted to speak about this morning about important teachings of Srila Gurudev. And it's very deep. Very, very deep. Sometimes Srila Gurudev used to say, when I do archan, it's bhajan. And when you do bhajan, it's archan. What does it mean? What does it mean? So, it's very profound. It means that in our devotional life, we're using so many words. We use words like a guru, a disciple, bhakti, sharanagati, shravanam, kirtanam, smaranam, padasevanam, and there's a vocabulary that we use. But all the vocabulary that we use, it can be understood in different ways. There is, in Sanskrit, words have mukhya vritti and gona vritti, the direct meanings and the secondary meanings. For example, if you say Gangayam Goshaha, it means the village on the Ganges. So the direct meaning, the mukhya vritti, is village on the Ganges. But is it possible to build a village on the Ganges? No. So in this case, you cannot take the mukhya vritti, the direct meaning. So Gangayam Gosha, you have to go to the Gona vritti, secondary meaning. That is called Lakshana vritti, associated meaning. So Gangayam Gosha, the village on the Ganges, actually means the village on the bank of the Ganges. Otherwise, there's another type of vritti, it's called Vyanjan vritti. Vyanjan vritti means the suggested meaning. So if someone says, oh, how can I go to your house? I want to visit you. How can I go to your house? Then you say, Gangayam Goshaha. My village is on the Ganges. So then here, the Vyanjan vritti, or the suggested meaning is, you can visit me by boat. Take a boat and come because my village is on the Ganga. Like this. So there are different ways in which the words can be interpreted. Directly, indirectly, and by associated meaning, Lakshan vritti, and Vyanjan vritti, by suggestion. Now the direct meanings, they also have two parts. That is called Ruddhi vritti and Yoga vritti. So Ruddhi means the conventional meaning of the word. What does it mean? Conventionally, among common usage of the people. And Yoga vritti means the etymological meaning. What's the meaning of the word according to, if you break it down, what are the parts that compose it? For example, if you say the word pankaj, what does pankaj mean? What does pankaj mean? Lotus, yes. Thank you, Shamrani. So pankaj means lotus. But neither the word panka or ja refers to lotus. Panka means mud and ja means born. You see? So pankaj by Ruddhi vritti, that is by conventional usage, it means lotus. But pankaj by yoga vritti, by etymology, it means born from the mud. So many things grow in mud. There are so many different plants and things that can grow in the mud. But in Ruddhi vritti, in the conventional usage, when we say pankaj, we don't mean any of those things, we just mean one thing. We mean lotus. So now you understand what it means, Ruddhi vritti, conventional meaning. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur explained, this Ruddhi vritti also has three divisions. That is called Vidvat Ruddhi, Sadharan Ruddhi, and Agya Ruddhi. So Vidvat Ruddhi means, what does this word mean to a Vidvan, Vidvat Anubhav? That is the person who is enlightened, whose heart is impure. What is their realization of the meaning of this word? That is called Vidvat Ruddhi. Then there is Sadharan Ruddhi. That is a person, they may be a Brahmin, they may be in the mode of goodness, and they take the meaning of the word according to the dictionary. But then there are persons in Tamas and Rajas whose consciousness is more contracted, and they have a more limited understanding, only related to the physical experiences. of the gross world. So these are three types of vritti. So Gurudev, he's used to speak about Vidvat Ruddhi Diksha. Once he said to me, it looks like I am giving Diksha to hundreds of people, but actually I have given Diksha to only 2 or 3. Because Diksha in Vidvat Ruddhi means Karna Bhed Sanskar. Karna Bhed Sanskar. In your life, there are so many sanskars which are performed, 10. From Garbhadan Sanskar before you are born, and then you are born, and there's a Jat Karma and Namkaran Sanskar, cutting the umbilical cord, giving the holy name, first grains, writing the first letter, being married, and so on. And then there's a sanskar also after you die, after you pass away, performed by your descendants. So these are sanskars. So one of the sanskar is called Karna Bhed Sanskar. It means ear piercing. So Diksha, the word Diksha, according to Vidvat Ruddhi Vritti, is a Karna Bhed Sanskar. It is a piercing of the material covering of the ear. Now the soul is covered by the material sense of hearing. But when the disciple surrenders completely at the lotus feet of Sri Guru, when there is only the Pranipat Vritti and the Pariprashna Vritti and Seva Vritti in his consciousness, surrender, inquiry and service, then when Sri Guru speaks the Shabda Brahma, transcendental sound, it pierces the material covering of the ear and then enters into the Vidakash, the sky of the heart. When that sound enters into the sky of the heart, there are 2 types of space. There is a material space, which is the Parischinna. It is Khanda. It is divided by time, place and circumstances, by past, present and future. And then there is the Chidakas, the spiritual space. If there are some words which are spoken in material space, then these words indicate something. They indicate something. So the word is one thing and what they indicate is something else. But when the Shabda Brahma, the Vedic sound, pierces the ear of the disciple, then this sound and the object, that space is not Parischinna, it's undivided. So when that sound goes into the Chidakas, the spiritual sky of the heart of the devotee, the sound and the object is exactly the same thing. They are not 2 things. So this is the meaning, Yasya Devi Parabhakti Yatha Deve Tathagaro Tasyaiti Katita Hyata Prakashante Mahatmana. To that person who is, as he is dedicated to Krishna, has Parabhakti to Krishna, similarly has Shuddha Bhakti to Sri Gurudev, then Tasyaiti Katita Artha. Katita means spoken, and Artha means the object. That which is spoken, the very object to which it's referring. No, it's not referring. The sound and the object is the same thing. And when Sri Guru speaks, then that object, Prakashanti Mahatmana, it immediately appears within the heart of the disciple. So this is stated in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sadhyo ridyavarude teyatra kitibisu srusubistachanat. Sadhyo. Immediately when the disciple listens to the Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna becomes captured in his heart. In the 3rd canto it is said, Yat te todiya charnam bhujakosha gandham jigranti kana vivarai sutivata nitam bhaktya grihita charna parayach tesham napaisinata hridayam budayat sapumsam. O my Lord, your pure devotees, they smell the fragrance of your lotus feet through the ears. Very beautiful. Jigranti. Jigranti means they smell. Karna vivarai, through the holes of the ears. Sruti vartanitam, by listening to the air of the Vedic sound. Enters into their ear and they have darshan of Sri Krishna's lotus feet and they smell the fragrance of his lotus feet through the ear. So this is Vidvat Ruddhi Vritti. This is the Vidvat Ruddhi. So this Vidvat Ruddhi has been described by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Shikshastakam. Vidyavadhu Jivanam. This Sankirtan is the life and soul of transcendental knowledge. Mahabodhi Prabhu was asking me, someone is learning something, well, can it be just like Gyan? Maybe it's just Gyan, and we should not be involved in that. But actually, anything, if someone is listening, and that sound is not manifesting there and then in that moment within the heart, then it's not anything. Srila Gurudev used to say, which was Bhaktivedanta Bhagavat Maharaj ki jai. Srila Gurudev used to say, theoretical knowledge is no knowledge. Is that right, Shamarendra? Theoretical knowledge is no knowledge. Actual knowledge is darshan. So, there are 3 stages in bhakti: Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya and Prayojan. So, Sambandha, Abhideya and Prayojan, all 3 of them, they're all darshan. The Sambandha Gyan is not a theoretical knowledge of different categories of Jiva Tattva and this Tattva and that Tattva. The Sambandha Gyan is darshan, it is a vision. And then on the basis of that vision, one internally serves, and that is the Abhideya, and that is darshan, and the Prayojan is also darshan. So from beginning to end, everything is darshan. And if there's no darshan, then there's no bhajan. And one is doing what? Archan. Understand? So we can give some example of, yes, so there's no problem. We can give some example of Vidvat Vritti. We are all reading Shastra, hearing and speaking. But it may be that everyone is not hearing and speaking and understanding according to Vidvat Vritti. For example, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, there, Srila Rupa Goswami Pad, he said, Baram huta vara jwala panjaranta vyavastitaha naschinta shtori vimoka janasam vaisa vaisasam. The meaning is, I would rather be inside an iron cage, surrounded by fire, than to have the association of persons who are averse to remembering Krishna. Right? So this is a verse, it's glorifying, by indirectly glorifying Sadhu Sangha by criticizing the Asat Sangha. Asat Sangha. So I would rather be in a cage of iron and lowered into a blazing fire than to have the Asat Sangha of those persons who are not doing the chinta, remembrance of Sri Krishna. Did everyone understand? Yeah? How did you understand? By Vidvat Vritti? By Sadhana Vritti? By Agya Vritti? You think about it. So the explanation is this. Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he said that it means I would rather be in the cage of iron and surrounded by fire than have the association of that person who takes his japamala in his hand like a person takes the reins of a horse. What does that mean? When you get on a horse and you take the reins, now you're the driver, you're in control. Like this. So if someone's taking the mala, okay, now I'm going to do bhajan, here we go, let's do the bhajan, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. All kartrita abhiman, all coming from the false ego, all initiated from this worldly platform, without any surrender, with bodily identification, with mental identification. So this is not bhajan. So, Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bo. Then he said, I would rather be in a cage, in an iron cage surrounded by fire, than associate with the person who takes his mala like a person holding the reins of the horse, or that person who does not, in every syllable of the name, relish the sweetness of Sri Krishna's Swarup. If a person is not relishing the sweetness of Sri Krishna's Swarup in every syllable, this is Asat Sangha. And it's better to be in the iron cage surrounded by fire. This is the Vidvat Vritti meaning of the verse. Why? Because we use these words, Sravanam, Kirtanam, Smaranam. But what do they actually mean? The word Sravanam means that when we hear, then we see the lotus feet of Krishna and smell the fragrance of Krishna's lotus feet. That is Sravanam. Kirtanam means Vidyavadhu Jivanam, the life and soul of all transcendental knowledge. When the holy name is chanted, Krishna's form, qualities, associates and pastimes are appearing. That is Kirtan. What is Smaran? Smaran is not someone thinks I am doing Leela Smaran, remembering Leela. But in the sixth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narad Muni, he tells Yudhishthira Maharaj that Namana Spashtamahati, the mind cannot remember anything that you have not experienced before. Then what are you remembering? If you haven't, that's what memory is. Memory means to take a samskar of a past experience and bring it into the forefront of your mind. So if you say, I'm remembering Krishna's pastimes, if you've not seen the pastimes, then how will you remember them? Once someone came to Gurudev asking about this subject. Gurudev said, oh, can you meditate on my father? He said, I've never seen your father. He said, then if you've never seen him, how will you meditate on him? So he said, the same thing is there with Krishna. So begin with the name. And if you chant the holy name without offense, Krishna will reveal his form and then you can remember him. You cannot remember anything that you haven't experienced. So, this Smaran depends on anubhuti. It depends on realization. Otherwise, one is remembering words. One is remembering some words, what you have read in a book or something that you have heard, remembering those words, but not the actual pastime. So Prabhupada Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur said, Leela hoite nama spurti rupanuga bale na. A rupanuga Vaishnava will never say that there will be a spurti of the holy name from the Leela. If you start from the Leela, the name, you will not have a spurti of Nam. Start from the Nam, Nam will give spurti, Rup, Gun, Parika, and then Leela, like this, not backwards. So, when the devotee is in the Prakrit stage, that is the Kanishta Adhikari stage, Archayam eva haraye puja yasada eyate natad bhakteshu chanyetsu sabhakta prakrita smitaha. It is said that the Prakrita Bhakta, the materialistic Bhakta, the Kanishta Adhikari, they have a faith in Archan. They like to do Archan. Now someone may say, well, I'm not really interested so much in serving the deities. I'm more into chanting and Harikatha like this. But this is not a choice. When the devotee is in the Prakrit stage, even his hearing, chanting and remembering is not actually those angas of bhakti, by Bidvat Ruti Briti. He's using the words, I am hearing, I am chanting, I am remembering. But not by Vidvat Ruti Briti, by Sadharan Ruti Briti, by Agya Ruti Briti. And in that stage, his hearing, chanting and remembering is not actually those angas of bhakti, it is in the stage of Archan. All included in Archan. And this is what Srila Gurudev meant when he said, when I do Archan, it's bhajan. Why? Because even if it looks like he's serving a deity, but actually he's having darshan of Krishna, and in his eternal spiritual Manjari Swarup, he's serving Radha and Krishna. He said, but when you're doing bhajan, you're doing Archan. That means that if the devotee is not experiencing the spot dharma, the manifestation of Nam Prabhu, then even though they think I am chanting, I am hearing, I am remembering, but they are not doing those things. They are doing those things, yes, but within the category of Archan, not the actual Sankirtan Dharma that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has come to give. So in the beginning, a person, they have no choice from Sada, Ato Sada, Ata Sadhu Sangha, Bhajana Kriya, Anata Nivriti, like this through these stages. Only faith is gradually becoming firm. Gradually the surrender is increasing. And then when Nishta comes, heart becomes the chitta becomes steady. Then when the chitta is nirmal, steady, it develops the quality called the Bhagavat Bimba Grahitva, the power to catch the reflection of the form of Sri Krishna. So Chaitanya Darpanamarjanam, heart should be steady, and some realization will begin in Nishta, and then in Ruchi, the actual nature of pure bhakti manifests. In Ruchi, devotee begins to see Krishna's form and his beautiful qualities and his associates and his sweetness, and then he understands Bhakti Tattva, not before that. So in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami said, Swapalpi Ruchi Eva Syad Bhakti Tattva Avabodhikaha. This Bhakti Tattva is understood only by those who have attained Ruchi. Even it's a little Ruchi, but they've entered into that stage. Beyond Nishta, they know Bhakti Tattva, and others don't know. They try to understand by Kevala Yukti. So Yukti means logic, reason, inference, Tarka. And Kevala, generally it's translated as dry. Dry logic and reason. So somebody say, I'm not using dry logical reason, I'm reading the Shastra. My reason is based on Shastra, on Shabda, on the Shruti. But no, here Kevala Yukti, dry logic means the Ruchi Rahita, the logic which is devoid of the experience of Ruchi, actual Ruchi. That is called the Kevala Yukti. By Kevala Yukti, no one could understand Shastra. If with permission, just 1 minute, one more point. You know that in Praman Tattva is the first Tattva that you have to know. Amnaya Praha Tattva Mahimya. Praman Tattva is the first thing. So there are three main categories of the Praman. There are 10 Pramans, but they come under three main categories. That is Pratyaksha, Anuman, and Shabda. So Pratyaksha means perception, and Anuman means when you use your mind to understand, draw some conclusions from the things that you have seen. And the last one is Shabda. Now, if a person takes the meaning of Shabda just to mean scripture, then this is not Vidvat Ruddhi. Because you read the scripture or you hear the scripture using Pratyaksh, and then you use your Anuman to try to think, well, what does it mean? What does it mean? So then, how is it? This is a separate category. So Shabda actually means this. Shabda means this. This is all explained by Jiva Goswami in Tattva Sandarbha. It's a very initial foundation. Whatever Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur has described is the mature and digested conceptions from the writings of Srila Jiva Goswami. So, the actual meaning of Shabda is this. There were 10 people on a journey, and they got in a boat and crossed the river. When they got to the other side, the leader of the group told someone, count, just to make sure that we're all here. So then that person began to count, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Someone's missing, they've lost someone. I can only count 9 persons. Are you sure? Yeah, you try. Then someone else said, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yes, there's only 9. What can we do? And then one old person who was nearby saw this. It was a very comical situation. And he came and he said to that person who was counting, Dasamas Tom Asi. Dasamas Tom Asi means you are the 10th person. Now, as soon as he heard that sound, he didn't see with his senses 10 people. And he didn't figure it out by thinking. But Dasamas Tom Asi, you, as soon as he heard this, then there was a manifestation of the knowledge of the situation there and then. So that is the meaning of Shabda. This is the real meaning of Diksha, when the Karnapet Sanskar takes place and the ear is pierced and the Shabda enters, which is non-different from the actual object that it is describing. So in this way, I am giving my pranam to Srila Gurudev and praying that we can all try to enter deeply into his teaching in regard to what is the difference between Archan and actual Bhajan. Srila Gurudev ki jai.
You need to ask a question.
Are you the Sabapati this morning? Are you the Sabapati, the MC this morning? Shringa.
So, while we're waiting, can you just give a simple example of what Sambandha Darshan is?
I just want to say that everything that I've just told in my class is in Srila Gurudev's books. But it's in some books which are not translated yet. And we are gradually translating them, and they will come out very soon. Yes, so your question.
In the very beginning, you were saying the difference. So Sambandha, if you don't have Sambandha's Darshan, that is, so I was asking the question from, I guess, my mental state. An example of Sambandha Darshan, the realization versus, you gave several examples of what's not.
You speak louder.
Huh?
Louder.
Oh, louder. I'm sorry. You gave many examples of what's not Sambandha Darshan, so I just wanted to give something so clarity, even for those who don't have it, probably including myself, what an example is.
Of Sambandha Gyan.
Darshan, in other words, the realization.
Yes. So here, the word darshan, it comes from drish dhatu. So when the suffix lut is added to drish darshan, the drish dhatu, then it forms the word darshan. And this word darshan, it means avalokana, sakshatkar and upalabdhi. Avalokana means seeing. Sakshatkar means direct experience. And upalabdhi means attainment or perception. And so the Sambandha Gyan, to have knowledge of relation with Krishna, means to have darshan of Sri Krishna's Swarup. You can see that Srila Vyasadeva, he went into trance. Bhakti yogena manasi samyak pranhite malaya pasya purusham punam mayam chatada pashrayam. And he saw Sri Krishna, and he also saw Maya, and he also saw the jivas. So having a vision, actual darshan of these tattvas, that is Sambandha Gyan. Not only having the theoretical knowledge of different compartments and categories on the mental platform. Gurudev said, theoretical knowledge is no knowledge. So actual Sambandha Gyan is darshan, avideya is darshan, and prayojan is darshan. Otherwise, a person is thinking, when they're in the platform of archan, they are thinking, oh, my Sambandha Gyan, I understand this subject, but it's theoretical. And my abideya is bhajan, serving Radha Krishna. So that person who in their minds trying to serve Radha Krishna, but they don't have darshan, they are shooting arrows in the darkness. Just like a person, they want to go hunting, so they go in the pitch darkness and they're just shooting and hoping the arrow will land somewhere. So that's not bhajan. So there's no abideya without darshan also. And then the prayojan is the full darshan, the full Gaudiya darshan, very profound. That means to attain the bhav of Brajagopis, wherein they are seeing Krishna internally and outward all the time. That even when they're meeting with them internally, they're also experiencing separation. So the actual prayojan is very, very high.
Srila Prabhupada says in the purport, Srila Prabhupada says in the purport to 325.25 that
Satam prasangam mama
Satam prasangam mama virya samvido. He says that by theoretical knowledge or study, one's advancement will only be negligible. He makes this point. This is a sentence. He says you have to have the association, as he was describing, that sound with that form entering to your ear, going into your heart. Ritkarna.
One more question.
I don't know, I am not the Sabharpati, I am just your servant. So can someone take control of the situation and tell me what to do? Nashinga. Delegate to someone this responsibility, please, Nashinga, because you're busy.
Who's next on this? Janar has the schedule.
We're actually asking questions.
Devotees are raising their hands and asking questions.
No.
Okay. The authorities have
Sorry, I
spoken.
never follow instructions very well. Sorry.
We didn't follow last night. Let's continue the tradition.
Then Shamarani will decide what to do, please.
No, there's no time built in the schedule for questions, but that's good that you have questions. It means you're paying attention. So then note those questions, and you can email later, you can talk later. Prabhu is here till tomorrow morning also.
Oh, after here we're going to Alachua for another festival.
Yeah.
So just please come to Alachua. And then from there we're going to Eugene the next weekend for another festival. And then New York for another festival. And then North Carolina for another festival. So if you have questions, just come along and we can have so many questions for days and weeks. Oh, and this afternoon also.
One more program this evening.
Yes, everyone can come to North Carolina and ask all their questions.
Then come to Navadvip.
You're next.
Who's next?
Ajnanam timirandasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah Gurave Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Kudalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tadabhaktaya Namo Namah Yam Prabrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityam Dvaipayano Virahakataruha Juhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Benedos Tang Savabhuta Hridayam Munimanatosmi Bhaktya Vahina Aparada Lakshay Chiptasya Kama Tarangamaye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Praparyam Vrinde Namaste Sharanarayendam Tavaivasmi Najivami Tambina Iti Vidyaya Radhe Tam Nayamam Charanantike Kam. First, I offer my unlimited obeisances in the dust of the lotus feet of my most worshipful Diksha Gurudev, Srila Prabhupada, and onto the lotus feet of my Shiksha Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Vedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj, to our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Vigyan Keshava Goswami Maharaj, and Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, and to all of his divine associates, and to all the assembled devotees. So yesterday was also the appearance day of Srila Bhakti Vedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, and the program gave him about 10 minutes or so. So we're going to discuss from Srila Gurudev's lectures about his glories today, because we missed yesterday, almost missed yesterday, and we have heard at least 20 times from our Shiksha Guru Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharati Goswami Maharaj that if we glorify the pure devotees on their titis, then all obstacles go away and all auspiciousness comes. And if we fail to do so, then the reverse happens. Srila Maharaj often quotes in that connection 3 verses from Manashiksha, all about the importance of calling out to and remembering the pure devotees, especially on their days. Yadi cheravasam prajabhuvi saragam pratijanor yuvardandam tachchet paricharitamāradhavilase swarupam sri rupam saganamihatasya grajamapi sputam premna nityam smaranamatadattvam shrunu manaha. O mind, if you are eager to reside in Braj, filled with ragatmika bhakti, and if you desire the direct service of the youthful divine couple, Vidvarudi, Sri Sri Radha Krishna, then listen to me. Birth after birth, always distinctly remember, as was just discussed, and bow down with great love to Sri Swarup Damodar, Sri Rupa Goswami and his older brother, Sri Sanatana Goswami, and to all other associates who are recipients of Mahaprabhu's mercy. Asach cheta kasta pradavikata pasha libiriha prakamam kamadi prakata patapati vyatakarai kalebadvahanye hamiti bhakabhidvartma bhagane kuru tvam putkaram avatisayata tvam mana ita. Lust, anger, and so on, the band of dacoits on the open road of material life, have bound my neck licentiously with the torturous dreadful ropes of wicked deeds, and are thus killing me. O mind, speaking in this way, you must grievously cry out to the powerful and merciful protectors of the path leading to Sri Krishna, the killer of Bakasura. Hearing your piteous cry, they shall surely protect you. And just remembering Prabhuji's lecture, first I just want to interrupt with an apology that it is much better to be in a cage of iron, drenched in a fire, than to have my association excuse me that it's imposed upon you now. But I'm going to continue, of course, that's what's happening. So then, Pratista Sadrista Swapacharamani me hridi natet Katam sadhu premna sprisati suchire tananumana Sadatvam sevasva prabudayata samantamatulam Yatatam nishkasha tvaritam ihatvam beshayati sa. O mind, as long as the shameless outcast woman of desire for prestige is dancing in my heart, how can pure transcendental prem touch it? Touch it, that atak Sri Krishna namadi, spurti, how can the spurti come? Always serve the dear devotees of the Lord, who are the immeasurably powerful commanders in his army. They will at once banish this outcast woman of the desire for prestige and initiate the flow of prem in my heart. So, on that note, we're going to speak some atom of glories of Srila Bhaktivedanta, Vaman Goswami Maharaj. But it's so good that we have the foundation of all of Gurudev's teachings and the memory of his conduct and activities, as you've heard in the last couple of days. And then now seeing another person who embodies that. So the first lecture I'm going to quote was given on November 18th in 2004. 2 years prior to that, on the same day, Srila Trivikram Goswami Maharaj left the vision of the world. And now in 2004, Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj left. So Srila Gurudev is giving this lecture in Govardhan. He had been in Govardhan with 1,000 devotees at Parikrama. But as soon as he heard that Srila Vaman Maharaj left, even at his personal inconvenience because he wasn't feeling well, he immediately took a train to Calcutta, to Navadvip. And because he had heard that Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj had requested that he himself perform his samadhi ceremony. Often the disciple or associate who performs the samadhi ceremony is the successor. Unfortunately, in the middle of the night, some other disciples did everything, not wanting to give Gurudev the credit and become the successor or the next acharya in the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. So Srila Gurudev will talk about this a little bit more later in the lecture. But he said, so I went there and I saw that everything was already done. So I did what I could do. I offered my Pushpanjali, I performed arti, and I did samadhi of his samadhi. I did parikram of his samadhi mandir that was just created. Then he began speaking about the life of Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj. His parents were Vaishnavas, and so his mother was a disciple of Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada. And she was very religious, had a lot of guru nistha, and she was very intelligent. So intelligent that without attachment, but with affection, the difference is attachment means I'm attached to someone for my sense gratification, and affection means that I want that person's spiritual welfare. So out of affection for her 10-and-a-half-year-old son, she brought him to the mutt and gave him at the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada. And then he was initiated and called Sajjan Sevak Brahmachari. And Srila Prabhupada put him in the Bhakti Vinod Institute, and he came out top in his class. Then after Srila Prabhupada disappeared, even when Srila Prabhupada was present, he'd always taken shelter of his Shiksha Guru, that is our Param Gurudev, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, who was the one who nurtured him and gave him everything that he needed for his bhakti. So he considered Param Gurudev his mother, his father, his Shiksha Guru, his all and all, and was fully surrendered to him. He very, very quickly, even as a young boy, memorized the whole Bhagavad Gita, as you heard last night, Gaudiya Kantahar, which is a book of verses on various tattvas, and so many other transcendental scriptures. After school, he would come back to the mutt and engage in all kinds of services. For example, he'd be the one to pass out the leaf plates at the beginning of Prasadam. He would pass out the salt, and he'd pass out the lemons, and then he would, after the Prasadam, he would collect all the leaf plates and throw them away and clean up the whole place all by himself. And then at night, after everybody was taking rest, he went to the toilets, and toilets do not mean what they are now. They're very foul places. And so he went to the toilets and cleaned all the toilets. And he would put the stools of the Vaishnavas on his head, in the bucket, that is. So he was always engaged in the services. And it was all under the direction of Srila Param Gurudev. And there were many examinations put before him, and he passed all of those examinations. One was, after the disappearance of Srila Prabhupada Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the devotees of the mutt were falsely charged with murder of all things. And so 45 devotees were put into prison, including Param Gurudev. And so young Sajjan Sevak Brahmachari, he had to do everything back at the temple himself. He would cook, he would offer the prasadam, he would bring the prasadam to the jail, and he would go to the courts, he would work with the lawyers, all by himself. But then he got criticism that he didn't have Diksha initiation, so how could he cook? So therefore, in the jail, he took Diksha initiation from Param Gurudev. Then, in 1941, that was the time that in Calcutta and in Navadvip, Srila Param Gurudev, along with the assistance of our Srila Prabhupada, who was known as Abhay Charande at the time, started the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti, also with Nishringa Brahmachari. And Sajjan Sevak Brahmachari was also present and assisting at that time. Another time, 100 devotees visited their mutt, and the only one who could cook was Sajjan Sevak Brahmachari, but he was very sick with 104 degrees fever. So Srila Param Gurudev told him, okay, so stop being sick now, cook a feast for everybody, and then you can be sick again. And that's exactly what he did. Then, as Prabhuji mentioned last night, when Srila Gurudev, without telling anybody in his family, when he left home, making his bed look like he was in it, like rolling up the blankets, and he left in the middle of the night and took a train to the station in Navadvip, and he didn't know anyone, and he didn't tell anyone that he was coming. So Sajjan Sevak Brahmachari was there with a hurricane lamp and went over to him and said, "Are you Tiwariji?" "Well, how did you know?" "I didn't tell anyone I was coming." "Oh, our Gurudev told us that you were coming." So immediate that eternal relationship. Then Srila Gurudev explained that when, as soon as I came to the mutt, Srila Vaman Maharaj was my big brother. He gave me clothes and bedding, and he, along with Srila Trivikram Maharaj, taught me kirtan, taught me so many things. And so therefore, I considered him also as my Shiksha Guru, Srila Gurudev was explaining. Actually, there were 3 of us who right from the beginning were the leaders of our Gurudev's mutt. That is Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj, myself, that is Srila Gurudev, and Srila Trivikram Maharaj. And we were always together all the time. Then, jumping a bit, if Srila Vaman Maharaj had not gotten ill before his departure, apparent departure, nobody would have been able to weaken the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti. But because his health was weakened, and then he disappeared, so everything became corrupted. But he said, what happened, happened. And that's all the arrangement of Shri Krishna. As Prem Prayojana Prabhu just mentioned, everything is under the control of Krishna, and with the Vidva Rudi Darshan, one sees that everything is under the control of God. Even deviations are under the control of God for specific reasons. Then he said speaking about Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj's writings, he was a perfect writer. He made no mistakes. And also, during the time of the Navadvip Dham Parikrama, when Srila Param Gurudev was greeting and speaking to thousands of pilgrims and answering questions and giving darshan, at the same time, Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj was there with pen and paper in hand. And Srila Vaman Maharaj would request him, so you wanted to give your article, you wanted to write your article about something or other. So then he would turn his attention, Param Gurudev would turn his attention to Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj and spend just a few minutes dictating an article. Sometimes it was articles about different groups or different personalities who would be criticizing his Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Prabhupada, challenging and accusing him of so many things. At that time, he would become red in fury, which is the duty of the disciple, and either asked Srila Gurudev to take a dictation or Srila Vaman Maharaj to take a dictation. Whatever Srila Vaman Maharaj wrote, like in a few minutes, like no typing, no stenography, no, first you make a recording, and then you hear the recording again to make sure your minutes were right. But he wrote in hand a few pages just from those few minutes. And then it didn't need any editing. That very same day, it would go to the press. And very same day, or the day after, it would come out in Param Gurudev's Gaudiya Patrika magazine. So these devotees who had all these mystic powers as insignificant byproducts of their devotion. Then Srila Gurudev said that not only did he write beautifully, but he also spoke beautifully. And sometimes he would speak for up to 3 hours. And everything he says was perfect and very soft. He spoke very softly. And if in his lecture he had to defeat someone who was present, who had an abrasive or upasiddhantic philosophy, he would defeat them in such a way that only the person who was defeated would know that it was meant for him. He was so clever and so sweet. Because as you heard last night, because he was a genius right from when he joined, that Srila Param Gurudev would say, if you learn a verse, then I'll give you a toffee. First, everybody thought it was chocolate, so wow, chocolate, yes. But then I asked Sripad Madhav Goswami Maharaj, and he said, no, it was toffee. So, but he learned so many verses, as you heard yesterday, and got so many pieces of toffee. Not that he was attached to the toffee, because he wasn't attached to anything in relation to himself. Srila Gurudev said that he never talked about himself. He never did any self-praise. He would appreciate other devotees, but he never ever did any self-praise. He was extremely humble. And he was also very polite in that when he was supposed to speak, he would ask Gurudev, who was younger than him, to speak first. And then Gurudev, being younger, would say, no, I can't speak, you speak. And then they would have this little argument in front of the whole audience. And then finally, he defeated Gurudev, and Gurudev spoke. Then Srila Gurudev said he was actually the right-hand man of Param Gurudev. Everything about him was ideal behavior. And let's see. Then he started talking about the Samadhi ceremony that he had just come back from. He left as soon as he heard and came back the next day. And he said, so I know that yesterday on the day of his appearance, you held the Viraha Mahotsava. Again, Viraha. V means special, Raha means meeting. So in Viraha, or special separation, if there's no meeting, then it's not Viraha. It becomes a Maha Mahotsav, a great festival, because at that time his presence is felt much more. In meetings, sometimes absorption is not there, absorption in feeling the presence. But in separation, the feeling of the presence is felt more in that grievous separation. And so meeting cannot be real without separation, and therefore our bhajan, as we learn from our acharyas in all of their songs, all of their kirtans, are bhajans of separation, in separation. Even the one that was mentioned, Prabhuji, today, that is, now that I've taken shelter of your lotus feet, O Gurudev, I'm feeling happiness in all four directions. And I've forgotten all my past history, and I only know that you're mine and I am yours. But still, there's feeling of separation. Even in meeting, there's a sense of imminent separation. So separation and meeting, as Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, goes on nourishing each other, ever increasing forever. So separation is there in bhajan, beginning with separation from Sri Guru, and then it's also there in Bhava Bhakti, and then it's also there in Prema Bhakti, as we see with Srimati Radhika and the Gopis and Madhya Yasoda. Srila Gurudev was explaining about that one day was the middle of the day, the hottest time of the day, and it was the hottest time of the year, the hottest season of the year. And Mother Yasoda was carrying Krishna's little baby toys, and her Saki called to her, Saki, where are you going? I'm going to Mathura. Why are you going to Mathura? Because my Lala, my little baby, is at the house of Devaki now. So I'm going to go there, and I'm not going to say, I want to see my son. I'm going to say, I just want to get some darshan of your son. And then, absorbed in that way, she fainted right on the spot, not from the heat of the day, but from the feeling of separation. Gurudev said you can also think this when you're chanting your japa. But, as Prabhu said, in reality. So, because now Srila Gurudev was feeling immense separation from Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. He had just come back from the ceremony, and not only was he weeping, but when he was leaving, after doing the arti and the pushpanjali and the parikrama, thousands of disciples of Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj and others surrounded the car, just like the gopis surrounded the chariot when Krishna was leaving for Mathura. And they said, please don't go. Our Gurudev just left, so we can't live without you. Stay with us. Please stay with us. And Gurudev said, I told them that I'll always be with you, but I cannot stay here because I've been insulted here. And so I'm leaving, but whenever you want me, whenever I can help you, then just let me know, and I'm there to serve you and guide you. Then he explained that now the mutt in charge are the little foolish boys who I brought up in their first years. They came, even their baby teeth had not come out. Not physically, but these foolish boys whose baby teeth had not come out, they trying to make the Gaudiya Vedanta Samiti devoid of Srila Gurudev, because you've heard about his nature in the recent few days, how all attractive he is. So wanting to have that name and fame, he said, they've insulted me, and so now I'm leaving. And he also called them little snakes. So we don't want to criticize, but we're just telling what Srila Gurudev said in his lecture. He said they have no faith in their Gurudev, and because of that, Gurudev meaning Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj, and because of that, they will very soon, in a few days, destroy themselves and also destroy the mud. Then he closed by saying that, so I'm ending by offering my pushpanjali. That means externally the flowers. Flowers doesn't only mean flowers of physical flowers. It means the flowers of the words. that when I offer glorification, that's offering our Pushpanjali. So now I offer him Pushpanjali and pray for his mercy for me and for everyone here. So because I have more time, I'm going to ask if there's any questions or comments. Yes.
I don't know if this is related to it, but I hear Lord Krishna has a Guru Dev named Santi Penny.
Well, I'm hoping the questions would be on the topic.
Okay, no.
There's a very, very beautiful video, which maybe we could even show tonight for 5 minutes. No, because we'll be at the other place. But there is a very, very beautiful video. I wonder if we could show it here. Of Srila Gurudev and Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj laughing together and garlanding each other and conversing so sweetly with each other. Is Pasanti around, or did she go? Janardhan, you wouldn't be able to organize that, would you? With the TV and then to find that one? It's just so, oh, you're here. Yeah, we would have to do that.
During lunch?
Huh?
During lunch?
Lunch is here. Well, then it's not. Yeah, we would have to do that, but look at all the trouble that
Yes.
Srila Vaman Goswami went to. All we have to do is pull out a TV.
How long did it take?
Pull it out.
It'll take
I
about
gotta-
3 minutes.
I gotta find the video first.
Okay, isn't that terrible? So, while we're waiting, I'm sorry?
Well, the TV is the whole rearrangement of this.
No, I mean, just put it here, facing the people, they're already facing here, and we can adjust.
All these things are gonna have to probably not go, TV will not go.
Can we pull it 2 inches back?
Yeah, try.
Okay, it's just so beautiful.
Absolutely.
Because I think some people, some devotees here don't know what he looks like even. So while we're waiting, I'm going to another topic of back to Srila Gurudev. I wanted to share some remembrances that I have of Srila Gurudev in relation to the paintings, because I've done that before, of course, but many devotees haven't heard that. So, yes. So let's start with this painting of Kunj Kirtan. In 2009, in the Philippines, Srila Gurudev told me 4 verses that are in the Mangalacharana section of the songbook. And they are prayers to Krishna, there's actually 2 sections of the Mangalacharana prayers. One is what everybody usually does before the bhajans, and the other one, which if you're not already doing it, you might love to introduce yourself to it. It's prayers to different individual associates of Krishna, like Gopiswara Mahadev, Purnamasi, places like Navadvip and Yamuna, Yogamaya, and also to Krishna, which is these 4 verses. So they're also very beautiful to sing, are pure sound. They are Siddha mantras.
Next time I'm mine, it's gonna be
And
yours.
then
Vasanti's laptop.
gradually in the course of time surrendering to them, so these personalities will reveal themselves to us. I asked Srila Gurudev once, is it Govardhan Hill while we're chanting the Hare Krishna mantra? Because he said all these personalities, Purnamasi, Yamuna, Govardhan, they're all in the past tense. And so when we pray to them, they're also within the Hare Krishna mantra,
When you're ready,
which
let us
is
know.
all the pastimes. What?
When you're ready, let us know.
Uh,
We'll have a kirtan and set up.
Okay. So I'm going to read the 4 verses, or should we just have the kirtan?
Read the 4 verses.
Okay. So the verses are as follows. Varaha vida viramam rigamadatilakam kundalakranta gandam kanjaksham kamukastam svitisubhagamakam swadare nyastavenam shyamam shantam shivangam ravikaravasanam Pushanam Vaijayantya Vande Vrindavanastam Yuvati Satyavratam Brahma Gopala Vesham. His crown is decorated with a peacock feather, and his forehead is marked with tilak of musk. Makara-shaped earrings swing upon his cheeks, and his face is decorated with a gentle smile. A vein of flute rests upon his lips. His complexion is darkish. He is supremely peaceful, and he stands in a threefold bending posture. His cloth resembles the rays of the sun, and he is adorned with a Vaijayanti garland. I worship that Param Brahma, who was always situated in Sri Vrindavan, surrounded by hundreds of young maidens, and dressed in the entire attire of a cowherd boy. Kastori tila kulalata patale vakshastale gostuvam nasagre varamuktikam karatale venum kare kankanam sarvange harichandanam sulalitam chamukta Gopastri parivesito vijayate Gopala Chudamani. His forehead is decorated with musk tilak. The coast of a jewel rests on his broad chest, and an exquisite pearl hangs from the tip of his nose. The flute gracefully rests on his lotus hands, and bracelets adorn his wrists. His entire form is anointed with chandan, and a necklace of pearls graces his attractive neck. All those words fit into the one form of Krishna. All glories to the crest jewel of all gopas, who is surrounded by young Braj gopis. And then, Pulendi varakantam indu varanam varatavahangsa priyam Srivatsankamudara Kostabadaram Pitambaram Sundaram Gopinam Nayanotpalarpitatanum Gopasangavritam Govindam Kalavenuvaranaparam Divyangabhusham Bhaje. I worship Govinda, whose complexion is the color of a blossoming blue lotus. His face is like the moon, and he is fond of wearing a peacock feather in his crown. His chest bears the mark of the Srivatsa, a curl of white hair. And he's adorned, he wears yellow garments, and his handsome form is worshipped by the gopis' sidelong lances. His companions are multitudes of cows and cowherd boys. He plays sweet melodies on his flute, and his body is decorated with glittering ornaments. Are we ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Gurudev said, take these 4 verses and paint 4 general paintings that can be used anywhere. So this is a very, very specific pastime, but it looks general. And according to the audience, we explain it in a specific or general way. It just looks like Krishna as described here in the 4 verses, and he's surrounded by the beautiful cowherd maidens. The specific pastime is from Srila Gurudev's commentary on Vilap Kusmanjali, verse 3. which is that in the Nishant Lila, it's a verse by Srila Raghunath Das Goswami saying, "Oh Rati Manjari, you are the most fortunate girl in this land of Braj, because it is you who Srimati Radhika has told to go into the cave." And there were kunjas in the cave, is that correct? Kunj, like, he would know. And so, to get her golden waist belt, which Krishna loves so much, and which is which he loves to untie, and it's a connection between the both of them. So then, why is Raghunath Das Goswami saying, "Oh Rati Manjari"? Because this verse is not actually his verse. Just like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami put in a verse from Srila Rupa Goswami as though it was his verse, as he's writing verses. So similarly, Raghunath Das Goswami's guru is also Srila Rupa Goswami, who is giving blessings to Raghunath Das Goswami, saying, you can write, and whatever you write, it will be successful. It will be the best writing. And also, it's a blessing from Rupa Manjari to Rati Manjari. So here, Rati Manjari, how is she fortunate? Because, are you ready? Mm-hmm. Okay, so we'll tell the rest of it after. Okay. Oh. This up, right? Srila Gurudeva Ki Jai, Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Just want to mention one quick one, that Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj was in charge of the printing press. And not only did he help make the articles, but he was in charge of the press that printed. And so one day, his fingers got crushed in the press. And when Param Gurudev heard that, he actually began weeping profusely and personally took him to the hospital. Everything got mended, but just to show their relationship.
Thank you so much.
So, in the absence of RMC, would you like to start speaking?
Thank you very much. Srimati Shamarani Didi Ki
Jai.
Srila Vaman Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai. Srila Gurudeva Ki Jai. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Auspicious weekend at GVO Ki Jai. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chaksuran Militan Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manavistam Stavitan Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kalamaya Didanti Swapadantikam. First of all, I offer my most humble obeisances at the lotus feet of my Shiksha and Diksha Guru. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Satara Satasisi Matsula A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Then I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my Shiksha and Sannyas Guru. Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Satara Satasisi Matsula Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of my two Shiksha Gurus, Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Satara Satasisi Mat, Srila Gaur Govinda Goswami Maharaj and Srila Bhakti Vigyan Bharti Goswami Maharaj. I offer my humble obeisances unto the lotus feet of Nitya Lila Pravishta Om Vishnu Pada Satara Satasisi Mat, Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj. And I offer my humble obeisances unto the Sri Rupanuga Guru Varga, Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Dev Goswami Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Thakur Prabhupada, Srila Gaur Kishore Das Babaji, and Srila Bhakti Vinod Thakur. And I offer my humble obeisances unto the feet of all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis who are assembled here today, headed by Srimati Shamarani Didi and Sri Prem Prayojan Prabhu and my esteemed God Brother Mahabhuti Prabhu. My Dandavat Pranams to all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Please accept my Dandavat Pranams. Hare Krishna. So, Rishabdev, Lord Rishabdev, he had 100 sons. The eldest son was Bharat Maharaj. And the next 9 sons were known as the Navyugendras. Prabhuda, Antariksha, Havi, Kavi, like this. Then after that, there was 9 more sons who were great, powerful Kshatriyas who managed the entire kingdom. And then there was 81 sons who were great Brahmin Pandits after that. So he had a very prodigious production of children. His eldest son, Bharat Maharaj, was a very extraordinary personality. I've talked about it before here. I think I talked about it on the first night, about how the opulences of the absolute, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are 6 opulences. All fame, all wealth, all beauty, all power, all knowledge, and all renunciation. And due to envy of those different opulences, we become lusty for them. We become greedy for them. If we don't get them, we become angry. And if we get them in a small degree, we become very proud. And this causes illusion. Mhm. So, when we look at Bharat Maharaj, and we see, like even within the realm of our personal experience, Srila Gurudev used to bring up about Princess Diana, how she was beautiful, she was powerful, she was wealthy, influential, very intelligent. She had all these wonderful qualities, but yet she wasn't happy because she had no love. So we see that there's always some, no matter how much you get of the opulences of the Absolute, there's always some drawback, some defect, some problem which interferes with your continuous pleasure of the material world, because there can't be any continuous pleasure in the material world. It can only lead to grief. But Bharat Maharaj is a very interesting personality because he was so powerful. He was the king of the entire world. You try to understand, there's a lot of demons now today who are trying to take control of the whole world. But Bharat Maharaj was actually in control of the whole world. That's how powerful he was. Not only was he in control of the whole world, but everyone loved him so much. He was so famous and so beloved that they named the entire planet after him and called it Bharatvarsha. So he was powerful, he was famous, he was wealthy, he was influential, he was a brilliant personality. He married a beautiful queen and produced 5 powerful sons. He had everything, no matter how much we may dream of having the different opulences of the Absolute. No one can even come close to a small measure of what Bharat Maharaj had. And yet it's written in Srimad Bhagavatam that when it came time for him to leave his kingdom and go to the forest to practice vanaprastha and meditation and achieve spiritual perfection, it said that he walked away from the kingdom the way a person walks away from the stool that he passes in the morning without even a second thought of it. If we have a room in this house, or an apartment, or a home, to leave that home, to leave that room, to leave that house, is so much emotional trauma that we have to go through to deal with. He walked away from the world. He had the whole world, and he walked away from the world, just like we walk away from the stool that we deposit in the toilet in the morning, without even a second thought about it. No interest. That's how detached he was, in spite of having all these opulences. Unlimited. And then, Srila Bharat Maharaj, by meditating with great attention in the process, actually achieved Bhav. And although he was in Bhav, he becomes confused by this deer. And when the deer comes, he becomes attached to this deer temporarily, and while chasing after the deer, when the deer runs away, he falls in a pit and dies thinking about the deer and has to take birth as a deer. but he remembers. Try to imagine being in charge of the whole world and then taking your next birth as a deer and remembering who you were.
Wow.
Remembering that you were in charge of the whole world and now you couldn't even put food and you had to grovel for food on the ground with your mouth. So what did this lead to? This led to Bharat Maharaj staying close to the ashram where the Bhaktivedantas were constantly glorifying the Supreme Personality of Godhead and hearing their Harikatha continuously, so that when he expired from the body of the deer, he took birth in a very high exalted Brahmin family. And even though he was in a very exalted Brahmin family, very quickly he observed that if I show my true intelligence and nature and understanding, then I will only get subsumed into the flow of material society once again. What else was there for Bharat Maharaj to try and achieve in this life? Could he ever have the power of the whole planet again? Could he ever have all of the wealth and fame and wisdom and everything that he had once before? No. That comes once in 100 billion lifetimes. So he knew, he understood very carefully, and this story is there for a reason, for us to learn, for us to know, for us to understand that no matter what you have in the end, you can become an animal if you're not careful. And that if you have the opportunity to understand how entangling this material nature is, then playing deaf, dumb, and blind to the different illusory images of this material world is the best way to try and deal with them. Just turn a blind eye to them completely. Stop hearing, stop talking, stop seeing. Srila Bharti Maharaj used to talk about tape recordings, how your senses tape the images by hearing with the ears, by seeing with the eyes, by touching with the fingers. Tape those images and tape record those illusions into the consciousness and into our thought processes so that we become addicted to them on some level. So on one hand, although Bharat Maharaj was acting deaf, dumb, and visually impaired, he was in fact completely enlightened to everything that was going on. But he avoided interfacing with the material nature so that he would not have to again become forced into the flow of material society. Now, interestingly enough, his 9 brothers, the Nav-Yogendras, in the 11th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, they have a very interesting discussion with Maharaj Nimi. And Maharaj Nimi hears from the sage Kavi, and then he hears in the 3rd chapter about Maya from Antariksha. Antariksha starts to explain about the nature of the 5 elements and how the super soul, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, enters into the different elements and into the hearts of all the living entities. In fact, this whole material nature, okay, is animated in the background by the presence of the super soul. By his presence it becomes animated, and it, because he's in every atom and in between every atom, because he maintains the illusion of this material world in terms of the temporary forms and situations. And so he's explaining Antariksha about this. And then he's explaining how eventually the material nature dissolves. And he gives this description of how there's this incredible heat that scorches the earth and creates deserts on the world and all over the world for 100 years. And how the sun, the intensity of the sun becomes greater and greater and greater. And then the fire comes up from the mouth of Anantashesh at the bottom of the universe. It starts to burn the whole universe. And then there's the Samvartaka clouds pouring rain for 100 years. And the whole entire material universe eventually is dissolved. So Nimi Maharaj, hearing all of this, becomes concerned. As we should be. And he asks Sage Prabhupada to explain something about Maya. And Sage Prabhupada starts to tell him about how man and woman, this illusory conception of 2 different forms, and how they meet and how they bind together in this illusory, false, egotistical conception. And how, due to this, they go through 8,400,000 species of life again and again, taking birth in so many different species, trying to enjoy this relationship of man and woman, male and female, again and again, in this species and that species. So after describing this to Nimi Maharaj, then he says, Tasmat. Tasmat. Therefore. That word, therefore, is very prescient, very pregnant, with so many meanings. Therefore, now that you sat here and listened to our description of Maya, of the dissolution of the universe, of the 100 years of deserts, and the 100 years of rain clouds, of the traversing of the jiva through one species after another, trying to enjoy union between male and female. 8,400,000 species going around and around, and then finally coming again to the human platform, which is the only platform by which we can make a distinction between matter and spirit in the controller of both. It's the only body in which we can have this understanding. We can have this knowledge. Tasmad. Therefore, now having heard all of this, and understanding the depth of what you're facing in this material world for millions and billions of years, if you don't wake up. Tasmad Guru Papadyeta. Therefore, now in this human form of life where you have the opportunity to understand the difference between what is Maya and what is Krishna, between what is the illusion and what is the reality, now that you have this understanding, Tasmad, therefore, Tasmad Guru Papadyeta, now you have to seek out a guru. Now you have to seek out a spiritual master. Jigneshu Shreya Uttamam, and inquire from that personality. But you have to be very intelligent about doing this. Who you choose. Who you choose to be your guru. Who you choose to give you this knowledge. You have to observe him. Srila Prabhupada talks about that, in the Bhagavad Gita, that verse, in the 4th chapter, verse number 34, that you should examine the guru, and the guru examines the disciple. We've heard so many lectures these past couple of days about Sat Guru and Sat Shishya. Even this verse has been discussed, but I just wanted to come at it from another angle of vision. And so, Prabhupada gives some indication about what a Satguru looks like. Shabde pade chanishnatam. He's realized the transcendental sound vibration, and he's realized a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He has realization. He has actual, by association with a superior sadhu, he has come to this conclusion. He has come to this position, this conception, and that realization by which he has now become Satguru. And due to that position, he is able to impart this knowledge. Tadvidi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya upadikshami te gyanam jnanivas chatvadarshi. Because he is a tattvadarshi, because he has seen the truth, therefore he is able, as a tattvadarshi, as a seer of the truth, to impart this truthful knowledge to others. And so, Shabde Pare Chanishnatam Brahma Shamshayam, he's above, he's in touch with the spiritual energy. He's above the pleasures and pains of the material nature. There's no sphere of influence there on him from the material nature. So, going back to Bharat Maharaj, we see that in the 3rd birth, when he's Jad Bharat, how he embodies this very conception. He becomes completely indifferent to pleasure and pain. They don't feed him nicely. They feed him rotten, leftover food. They are very disrespectful to him. After his father leaves, they literally abuse him. And then, in order to protect their material assets, they place him on a elevated platform in the field to act as a scarecrow, a living scarecrow, in order to scare away robbers or to scare away animals, etc., etc. And when this band of dacoits sees him, they think, because they're worshippers of Kali, they're worshippers of Kali, and they think, oh, this is a suitable offering for Ma. We should bring this human being before Ma and sacrifice him at her feet to please her. And so they bring Judd Barrett, and Judd Barrett knows where he's going. He knows exactly what's going on, but he is indifferent. Totally indifferent. Totally relying on the mercy of the Lord and remaining indifferent to the material influences. And so when he comes to this platform and he's there in front of this deity of Durga, Kali Ma, and she's witnessing that they're about to execute one of the greatest devotees in the history of the world. And she cannot tolerate it. She becomes furious. And so what happens is the murti of Kali bursts open and Kali comes out. Now this is an interesting thing. It's a very powerful lesson about understanding the difference between a demigod and the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When the Brahmin, the young Brahmin in the story of Shakshi Gopal, gets the promise of the elder Brahmin in front of the deity of Gopal in Vrindavan. And then when he comes to that deity and asks the deity to please come and bear witness, the deity actually walks all the way to Jagannath Puri practically. The deity itself is animate because Krishna is not different from the deity. But here we see that the demigod, Kali, the deity bursts open and then Kali manifests. And in one place Prabhupada talks about how actually the deity of the demigod is not the demigod, but the demigod is receiving offerings through the deity in a distant place. And so we see that this is a good example of understanding the difference between the deity of a demigod and the deity of the Supreme Personality of God. And so Kali comes and she slaughters all these dacoits. And she saves Bharat Maharaj. And Bharat Maharaj just wanders into the forest. He has no inclination for any of the opulences. He doesn't want to let anybody know about the glories of what he knows. He's completely happy to just sit and meditate on Krishna and be completely disconnected from this material world. Srila Gurudev talks about this actually when he's talking about Raghunath Das Goswami. How Raghunath Das Goswami, we hear the story about when he first leaves the Majumdars and he comes to Puri and he's there with Mahaprabhu. Mahaprabhu has him eating lunch with him every day. And then he starts to think, why should I be the one eating lunch with Mahaprabhu every day? This is not proper, it's not fair. So I'll just wait till he finishes eating and I'll take the remnants. So Mahaprabhu asked Rup Damodar, where's Raghunath? And he said, well, he decided that he shouldn't be eating with you and that he should just wait for your remnants. He said, oh, this is very good. And so at the end of a few days, Raghunath Das thought, why should I be the one who gets Mahaprabhu's remnants? Everyone should share it. So he made arrangements to have a Brahmin in the community cook for him, and then he would eat at the Brahmin's house. And so Mahaprabhu asked, so where is Raghunath Das? He's not waiting for my remnants? No. He decided that it was too much prideful of him to stay and eat, be the exclusive consumer of your remnants. and that he wanted to go and take his lunch at a Brahmin's house. Oh, very good, Mahaprabhu said. Then after a while he thought, this is not real renunciation, eating nice meals at a Brahmin's house every day. I should be more dependent on Krishna. And so I'll go to the gate, Simadwara gate, and as people pass, I'll beg for some ramen. Whatever they give me and whatever I get from that, that I'll eat. That I'll take. Then after a while he started thinking, and so Mahaprabhu was asking, where is Raghunath? I know he's over at the Simadwara gate, begging food from the devotees when they come out of the temple. Oh, okay, good. And then he started thinking, I'm a prostitute. I'm standing here looking, oh, who is a suitable customer that will provide me with my food for today? And I'll beg from that particular customer. So he became ashamed of himself again. And then Mahaprabhu asked, where's Raghunath Das? He's not by the gate. Swarup Damodar said he's gone to the back where they discard the old prashadam, and he's washing off the rice and eating that. So Mahaprabhu goes there. And he begs Raghunath Das, can you please, what are you doing? You're eating the special prasad and you're not giving me any remnants? You're not giving me any Mahaprasad? And then he takes some of that prasad. And then Gurudev was saying how here's Raghunath Das eating this leftover prasad, eating this discarded prasad, wearing cloth from the street that he picked up, giving up everything, totally disconnected. Bharat Maharaj was living like this. And Gurudev was saying how until we can come to this platform, we really can't become disconnected from this material world. That we have to get to this level of renunciation. And yet, when Bharat Maharaj had the opportunity to preach to King Rahugana, he preached the glories of the Lord to King Rahugana, because this is the mercy of a great pure devotee, that he divulges his wisdom to such the fallen conditioned souls who do not have a proper understanding of their position in the material world. And after that, Bharat Maharaj, Jad Bharat sort of disappeared into oblivion. And this is the actual culmination. This is where we have to go in the end if we want to be disconnected from material nature. No envy of any of the opulences of the Lord. We're not interested in fame. We're not interested in wealth, knowledge, power, beauty. We're not interested in any of these things. We're only interested in how much we can exchange by loving service. As Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur said, love is the only thing that there is. Let me engage in your service and let love be my pay. This is the ultimate conception, the ultimate goal, the ultimate practice for us in Krishna consciousness. And so, to get there, we have to have association. Although the Super Soul is everywhere, the Super Soul is present everywhere, and as Srila Gurudev said, even Radha Krishna Leela is going on, Goloka is going on in every atom of the universe. All of that is there. But in order for us to hook into that, to plug into that, to connect to that, then Tasmat Guru Prapadyante Jigneshu Shriya Uttamam. We have to have the association of someone who's there, who's been there, who's come from there, or who is there now, or who can see it. Srila Sridhar Maharaj says there's three kinds of gurus. One of them, by that association, then we can get some advancement in our spiritual life. So I want to thank everyone for the opportunity of being able to talk a little bit about the pastimes of Bharat Maharaj and Krishna and all of these things. Thank you very much. If there's anyone who didn't get one of those little packets from last night, I have a few in my pocket. You didn't get one?
No, I just wanted to
You ask a question. Okay, I have a couple of minutes left, right?
a comment, actually.
A
about-
comment?
Yeah.
Oh, a comment. Okay.
That it's amazing how what this history of Jad Bharat and these instructions, they all boil down to association and getting
Yeah.
this mercy. And today, you know, like you say, you have to have a journey, you have to do some sacrifice.
Yeah.
I'm driving for over an hour to come here. And I know better. But I said, this is nothing. We have all these powerful personalities from you, Mahabodhi, old friends. And I said, you know, this is the joy of life. So I should just drive and know that I'm going there to have the opportunity to associate with each and every one of us. You know, this is why we have to create a lot of space for more of this to happen more often. And I feel very honored to be here in your presence. But at the same time, I say we have to continue expanding and making it more sweet, more better, because there is, like Shamarani Didi has this strong desires to make a big museum with every facility there is. And I said, you know, this is my goal, even though I may not appear to be doing it physically, but I'm always there trying. And then I see that your lecture was basically saying to me, yeah, what you were thinking about is, you know, I'm not at the level of Jad Bharat, but just to hear these stories is so enlivening and so, and the way you make it sound is so easy. Although it's not
easy.
It's not easy. But we have here Shamarani Didi. What a blessing for all of us to have her here to represent this whole parampara and having the association of Sri Prem Prajojana. My son Vishwarupa and I, and then Arjuna in Houston, knowing that you're here and Mahabodhi is here, and then I hear, you know, their happiness. So I said, you know, this is Krishna consciousness, where you share, you know, the Atushanticha, Ramanticha, that you share each other's, and it's so nice, you know, and having this association, I say, whoa, so the scriptures are for real, because even last night, I think it was yesterday, when Rasika was in her glorification, I couldn't help but cry, because she described it so clearly in the way that it touched me very deeply. And I said, see, this is a young lady that could be my granddaughter, and today she's teaching me, you know, these things, and it's so wonderful. So thank you, Maharaj.
You're welcome. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, each and every one of you.
Thank you. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubayascha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Srila Gurudeva ki
Jai.
Srila Vaman Maharaj ki
Jai.
Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Srimati Shamarani Didi ki
Jai.
Srila Prem Prayojan Prabhu ki
Jai.
Lord Premanande.
Krishna Priya Devi.
All right, Nishringa's here.
Offering is going on now, so we'll have one kirtan and then a few minutes for Q&A. Okay?
One kirtan, all right.
Wake everyone up. Janardhan, do you want to say something?
Yeah,
A few
give me
minutes?
the opportunity to enjoy a little bit more.
Like 5 minutes, and then we'll do 20 minutes for Q&A.
I'm thinking with your hands.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
So, if I can ask the question, I think it's all right.
Loud.
Now, so if we were to understand, we may not understand properly, but if one hasn't had the darshan of Krishna, then they would still be on the Kanishta Adhikar platform. That from a Madhyam platform or a higher level of Madhyam platform, especially Sutli, if you were saying before going to Ruchi, then the person would be, without that, would still be on a Kanishta understanding. So if they're on a Kanishta understanding, unless they, and I don't want to presume anyone's spiritual platform, then one should, as Gurudev said, preferably take a guru that has at least that conception of darshan. Is that correct? I'm not trying to cause a controversy.
The last part of the question was about Guru. What was the last part of the question?
The first part is more important. The last part, if one doesn't have, if one is accepting Guru without that understanding darshan, then it's almost like firing blanks again.
Correct, yes. And the answer
And both
to that,
sides?
The answer to that question is yes.
Thank you.
Can you repeat it all again then? Since the answer is a yes.
Or the microphone,
I didn't really want it filmed.
Okay.
Oh.
No, it's just,
Doesn't have to be.
I was just trying to make sure I understood appropriately.
Should we go off live stream? Sure.
So my question, is it working? I don't even know. Is it, can you hear me?
You have to turn it on.
No.
Maybe make it a little closer to the mouth.
I don't hear the mic.
Hello?
Put
Yes?
it
The
the
mic.
mic needs to be closer to your mouth.
Just hold it to your
mouth. Just hold it like a microphone. It's easier.
Hare Krishna. Anyway, I speak loud enough. So the question was, for my, basically my edification, if I was understanding what Prem Prayojana said appropriately, I just wanted to have clarification. So if one hasn't had the darshan, which basically means if one's chanting hasn't got to the platform of clear no way the anartha is, and getting to the platform of having some darshan of Krishna, then one would still be considered on the Kanishta platform. So then the second, and that was the question, yes or no, if I understood it properly. The second part of it was, well then if one's accepting Guru, one should accept Guru on the platform, because Srila Gurudev and Prabhupada and so many of our acharyas of us at least accept Gurus on at least the Madhyam platform. The Madhyam platform, if I understood correctly, then that devotee should have the darshan, should have had at least one of the three different ways, darshan of Krishna, to be able to Madhyam, but to speak of Ruchi and higher. So that was the question in two parts. And the answer was yes.
Yes, yes.
can add a little.
Go ahead.
Comment a little bit. Hare Krishna. No, it's really not a. It's really,
It's not working.
it's
It-
not
it-
connected.
Battery.
Hare
Could be a battery issue.
I can speak.
You
up
speak
anyway.
loud enough anyway.
The holy name is Sri Krishna himself. And if the chitta is clean, Shuddha chitta, that's not even Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma.
Yes, it is or no?
No, not even that, because that's the stage of Bhav.
Ah.
But even before the stage of Bhav, when the devotee enters into the Madhyam Adhikari, he has a vision also. But you see, his chitta becomes clean. That means it's very highly sattvic. And then when the devotee chants the holy name, the Swarup of Sri Krishna and his qualities and associates gradually is reflected there in that chitta. So that reflection is coming from Swarup Shakti, the internal potency, reflecting in his chitta. But what happens in the stage of Bhav? Srila Vishwanath Thakur was giving an example that if one has the parad and that means the sulfur and mercury. Sulfur and mercury, they don't mix together. But if you rub them, after a long time, then they transform and they become kaja. Parad means sulfur is called gandak and parad is mercury. So parad and gandak. Parad is the mercury and gandak is sulfur. So they don't mix. But after the rubbing for some time, then they mix together and become one substance. So that means that sadhana is darshan and the stage of sadhya bhav is also darshan. But in the stage of sadhana, the darshan is reflecting in the heart, but the swarup shakti and the chitta have not mixed together yet. So by continuing to chant in the stage of ruchi and asakti, slowly, then suddenly the chitta melts and becomes one with the vritti of Swarup Shakti. And so the stage of Bhav has been described, Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma, that means Samvit and Ladini. Prema Soyangsu Samyabet, then the ruchi bis chitta masrinya, the heart melts. Krida so Bhava Uchate. So that means before the stage of Bhav, in the stages of Nishta, there's some realization of Krishna's form and qualities. In the stage of Ruchi, of his sweetness and associates. In the stage of Asakti, there is the Abhasa, one's own Swarup. You can see the Bhajan Rahasya in the chapter 5 on the subject of Asakti, there Srila Gurudev describes how there's the Abhasa of the realization of your Swarup. That means everything is coming, the realization is coming, but as a reflection on the Chitta. It's still the action of Swarup Shakti. But the Swarup Shakti and the Chitta have not blended together fully yet. And then Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma, Prema Soyanto Samyabhat, Ruchi Bis Chitta Masrinya. Then the Chitta melts and becomes one with Swarup Shakti. And that stage is called Bhav. So, the Guru must have realization. Because if any devotee is chanting the Namaparad, this is not the holy name. This is not the holy name. So someone who is chanting Namaparad cannot give the holy name to someone else. They can give Namaparad to someone else. But if someone is chanting the free from offenses, then the Shuddha Nam is reflected in his heart and revealing all Bhakti Tattva. Do you know Namastakam of Srila Rupa Goswami? Yada baso pyudvan kavalita badadvanta vibhavo drisham tattvandanam api dishati bhakti pranayinim janastasyodatam jagati bhavan namatarne kriti teni vakta kahima mahimanam bhavati. Oh Nam Prabhu, what learned person can adequately describe your glories? When the first rays of the sun, light of the before Shuddha Nam comes in state of Shuddha Sattva Visheshatma even, the first rays coming from that Shuddha Nam, dispel all the darkness of ignorance and enlighten the heart with the vision of all Bhakti Tattvas. So the Guru should at least have a realization of the transcendental world, be free from all namaparad, then he can give that according to his capacity to others as well. But if one cannot say, Om Ajnana Timarandasya, I am in the darkness of ignorance, and my Guru is also in the darkness of ignorance. Huh? If a Guru's eyes are not open, how will he open the eyes of the disciple? So, according to Vidvat Ruddhi, all the angas of Bhakti are darshan. Perhaps you know Bhagavad Gita, you know? Raja Vidya, Raja Guyam, Pavitramidam Uttamam, Pratyakshavagaman Dharmyam Susukam Kartamabhyam. What does Pratyakshavagaman Dharmyam mean? Huh?
Direct perception of the self by
It gives direct perception of the self by realization. So Pratyakshavagaman Dharmam, the dharma of bhakti is that it's a pratyaksh. It's always a darshan. In Sambandha Gyan it's a darshan, in Abhidaya it's a darshan, and in Prayojan it's a darshan. But prior to the becoming free from the anarthas, and coming to the state of Nishta and Ruchi, prior to becoming free from the effects of the Namaparad, then there's no vision. So that is just like shooting arrows in the darkness. So if someone is speaking about hearing, chanting and remembering, but they're not thinking that hearing means seeing, chanting means seeing, remembering means seeing, then they are discussing the prior stage, which is leading to bhakti, where the devotee is practicing archan, prakrita bhakta, and he's gradually going there. So Srila Gurudev said a wonderful thing. He said that you must remember transcribing and posting all these kathas. Gurudev said, there's a siddhanta for the Kanishta Adhikari, there's another siddhanta for the Madhyam Adhikari, and there's another siddhanta for the Uttam Adhikari. So there's something very astonishing. So we may, I have heard this siddhanta, yes, I know. But what type of siddhanta for what level of devotee is it aimed at? See? So we mentioned earlier this discussion, it was actually Nemi Maharaj. I was in touch with him a few days ago and we were fondly remembering this. When, and you have transcribed also and shared all these things with everyone. Nemi Maharaj said, Gurudev, you have told us we should divide our japa into 4 parts. And first, when we chant Harinam, we should do Parikrama of Govardhan and give pranam to all the... Gurudev said, stop. That I've told just for general persons. So it's not that Gurudev didn't say it, or that it's wrong. He said it, and it's correct, and you can do. But it's for a particular level. It's for a particular level. And actual bhajan is something far beyond that. So you can see that in the beginning of Bhajan Rahasya, in the preface to Bhajan Rahasya, Srila Gurudev has given the introduction written by Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur, how to distinguish between Archan and Bhajan. And then when you enter into the first chapter, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is discussing the one mantra of the Rig Veda. Om Asya Jananto Namachid Viviktam Mahaste Vishnu Sumatim Bhajamahe Om Tat Sat. The rishis are praying, oh my Lord, we don't know you very well. We know that there's God and that you exist, but we have not realization. But how wonderful it is that simply by repeating your holy name, that we will attain the full realization of you. Why? Because Om Tat Sat. Om means the holy name. Tat means Supreme Lord. The absolute truth is none different from that holy name. And Sat means Swatta Siddha, self-manifest. Nam Prabhu reveals himself to those who are serving the Nam by Aksharabhyas, the repetition of the syllables of the name. Now Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is very specific here. He's saying, in Bhajan Rahasya, we are not discussing the subject of Archan. We want to discuss Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. The all glories to Sankirtan. Sankirtan, the holy name, is the Purna Anga of Bhakti. Navavida Bhakti Purna Nama Hoite Hoi. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said that Sankirtan is the Purna Anga of Bhakti. And the others, they are partial. And this Purna Anga of Bhakti, Sankirtan, is self-sufficient. It doesn't require the support or the help of the others. It is complete in itself. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur describes that, he quotes one verse from Hari Bhakti Vilas, Yena Janma Shata Purvam Vasudeva Samachitaha Tanmuke Harinamani Tatta Chistami Bharata. So if a person has an understanding of bhakti, they are prakrit bhakta in the initial stage, and their idea is not according to Vidvat Rudibriti. They're practicing bhakti, they think I'm doing bhajan, but they're actually doing archan. This is one stage. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur is quoting this verse. It said, after doing archan for 100 lifetimes, then after that the holy name will appear on the tongue and one will do Sankirtan. So the question comes, how can we come to that stage of bhajan? Rather than thinking I am doing bhajan but doing archan for hundreds of lifetimes. So for that, Maharaj explained it today in his class. Satam prasangan mama virya samvido bhavanti rit karna rasayana katha tadyoshnat ashokavagatmani swadha rati bhakti anukramisyati. One should stay in the association of pure Vaishnavas, because Shraddha, Rati, Bhakti, these are stages in development of our faith. Shraddha is the eligibility for archan, to enter into Bhakti. But how would that faith be upgraded so we can get Rati, and how would the Rati be upgraded so we can attain? Here Bhakti means Prema Bhakti, in a sequence, only by Satam Prasangam Mamavirya Samsiddho. Association with Vaishnavas, you know. Srila Gurudev said that Srila Prabhupada's books, everything is in Prabhupada's books, but it's under lock and key. So everything is in Gurudev's books also, but you think it's not under lock and key? Only Prabhupada's books are under lock and key, but Gurudev's books are not under lock and key. Is that what you meant to say? So all books are under lock and key, and the key is Satam Prasangam Mamavirya Samvido, because they will speak a katha which is suitable for us in one stage. And then as we follow that faithfully, then they will again explain in another way, more evolved, to uplift us, and again and again. And in that company, Mama Virya Samvido, that katha is very powerful. Here, Virya Samvido means that the katha is imbued with the Samvit Shakti, Krishna Samvit Shakti, self-revelatory potency, by which Bhavanti Ritkana Rasayana Katha, that the ear and the heart become rasa-yukt. They become united with that transcendental Leela. The Rasa Vaisa, Krishna is full of rasa. He's a killer Rasamrita Murti. And his Leelas and associates are full of rasa. And by hearing that Katha, which is imbued with Samvit Shakti, then the ear and the heart become rasa-yukta. In the association of sadhus, there's only pure Harikatha, flowing like rivers in all directions. Unless we take association with sadhus, then we cannot overcome the anartha of prajalpa. Because in the association of those who don't have realization, they talk this and that and this and that and this and that, and the mind becomes filled with so many vrittis which are not shuddha. So only in the association of pure sadhus, rivers of nectar are flowing all the time in all directions, and by listening and serving, then our mind becomes free from the worldly avesh, worldly absorption. Because as long as worldly absorption is there, then the experience, the divine experience, does not become open to us. So Tadyoshnat Asha Pavargvavatmani, by that association, the path of elevation from this world to the divine realm becomes open. So in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, this tattva is being described, that Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamaslake Bhakti Bhagavati Naistiki. Here it is said that by serving the book Bhagavat and the person Bhagavat,
Yes.
reading the book and serving the devotee is an embodiment of all the truths and realizations which are contained within that book. By serving these, then what happens? Nashta Prayeshu Abhadreshu. Abhadreshu Srila Vishwanath Thakur comments, it means namaparad. That by serving the pure devotees, one's tendency, how one is covered with so many namaprads which are blocking one's progress, then by hearing gradually the tendency to perform nama aparad, it goes away. And as soon as the aparads go away, then the actual sport dharma, the nature that hearing is seeing, chanting is seeing, remembering is seeing, this becomes the realization. So Nityam Bhagavata Seva. Go Premananda.
I want to say one. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur in the commentary on 3:25:25 makes this point exactly like this, what you were saying. He gives the gradation. He said if you hear the Harikatha from someone who's not on that platform, then you'll get an increase in your desire to perform bhajana kriya.
Yes, yes.
He said, but if you hear the Harikatha from such a satam, such an exalted devotee, hearing the sweet pastimes from that personality, then your anarthas will start to dissolve, as he was saying about the anarthas.
Right.
He said, then, by continuing to hear the Harikatha from such exalted persons, after the anarthas dissolve, you get nishta, and then by continuing to hear the Harikatha from such exalted persons, then you'll get ruchi. And then by continuing to hear the Harikatha from such exalted persons, then you get ashakti, and then bhav. So at every stage, you know, sometimes it's, oh, I already heard. I was initiated by Prabhupada in 19... I already heard. No, at every stage, even in bhav, you have to hear and associate with sadhu. This Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says in the commentary on that verse. And he was just saying it in his own words, which is what Prabhupada said. Huh?
Even at that stage.
Yes.
And the experience at that stage will be very different than the experience at a previous stage as well. That's a whole nother class. So now it is our time for one more quick kirtan by Narsingha Prabhu, and then we're going to have prasadam. A couple quick announcements. One is, because last night some people came here like confused, and so just another reiteration that tonight is not at GVO. It's very close. It's 612 North Park Road, I believe. So it's right around the corner.
Where we went last night.
And so it's not where we were at last night, and it's not where we are. So,
It's another place?
it's another place.
This one's closer to us.
This one is even closer. But it's really nice because devotees are having the opportunity to host the sadhus in their homes, and it's giving some relief to this place, which is also a women's ashram, so they need to have some semblance of a schedule. So I think you also had an announcement about your place?
I just wanted to announce that unless you're driving one of the preachers, if you could pretty please park at the Publix across the street, that would take the driveway, because the driveway is very small.
Yeah, there's very limited parking, just like at our place last night. So if you're not driving one of the preachers, or you're not walking in with prasadam, those are the two caveats. If you're not doing either one of those things, right across the street is a Publix. It's like a 30-yard walk right across. So please park at that Publix. There's like unlimited parking there, so there's no problem at all.
Where's Shankarani's vision going to be spoken about?
That we're going to speak about that tonight, because how inconvenient that we have to go to different places instead of being in one large space altogether. So we're going to discuss this evening the beauty of the vision. Oh yeah, and so after prasadam, before everyone leaves, in order to not be a burden on just the smaller community here, we're requesting everyone to get involved, and in less than 20 or 30 minutes, we could clear the entire backyard and have it fully reset, because we leave it till tomorrow, it's Ekadasi, fasting, and by Tuesday, everyone's left, no one wants to do it, and then all of a sudden, like Vasanti's by herself out there doing it, because it has to be done.
I can help with that tomorrow.
So, I mean, ideally, we're going to do as much as we can this afternoon while we have the manpower, all the larger pieces, and then tidying up and cleaning. Tomorrow is actually an all women's day at the ashram, so it's not open to men or to the public. It is a rest and recovery bhajan day. So unfortunately that won't be possible for the men. So today is the day.
An artist.
Which is the reverse of what's true in 99% of other ashrams. So, all right, thank you so much. Haribol.
When are you leaving?
Probably later.
Okay, we'll spend a little time.
Start time tonight. That's a great point. Tonight we're starting at